Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Root TV tonight. We are here, very special episode, you know what? I'm having a problem. I'm having a problem tonight, guys. So here's the problem. Here's the problem. Every guest that I have, I do these big, grandiose, like Ed McMahon entrances. It's just, I feel like I'm being like a carny or something. I mean, like I want to just be casual. You know, I like the Mark Maron podcast where he's just like, "Hey, buddy," and then just like start talking. Like I don't know. I don't know what I should do. Josh, what do you think I should? Should I give you the grandiose entrance?
I need it for my mental health. So.
I think we all needed it this point.
The more the better.
Honestly, if I was the guest,
really beef it up for me.
All right. From the diaphragm, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like you to all give a nice warm round of applause for my guest tonight on season 3, episode 7 of Root TV tonight. One of my favorite people in the entire world, one of my favorite comedians in the entire world, ladies and gentlemen, all the way out from the great state of California, 11 years in the comedy business. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Joshua Florhaug. Yes.
Yeah. I'm here. I loved it. Energy levels are sky high now.
How did I do? I did all right?
This is going to keep me from breaking down for at least 4 days.
That's good for me because, you know, I turn in March, I turned 41. So I'm an old man now.
I'm 35. But I have the body of a 78-year-old.
You know,
guy who ate cheeseburgers.
What they don't tell you is when you turn 40, you still retain, and I was taking a shower before, you still retain your youthful 13-year-old acne. I got a zit on the end of my nose right now, so it's
man, the mask situation has brought acne back for adults, and
you know what? I didn't even realize that. That's probably it because
that's what I'm blaming.
Yeah,
it's like right when we got confident enough to not care how we looked, like the universe was like, "Yeah, remember acne? It's back."
Yeah, it's like, well, just when we start to get comfortable, it's just
yeah, it's just bad again.
Well, yeah, and
no one's gonna tease you, but in your head, you're like, someone's making fun of this.
Yeah, that's it. And you know, I'm 40 now, and I have prostate exams right around the corner. I've got colonoscopies right around the corner.
I have a colonoscopy right around the corner. We're doing it.
Well, then you're inspiring me to get mine.
Have you ever gotten one?
No, and before we get into this, I had a talk with, I don't know if you're familiar with the Tom Green show, but I had Glenn, his co-host, on the show, and we talked for like I don't know, not long, but like 25 minutes on colonoscopy talk, and it pissed off the people that were watching because they wanted me to talk about the old show, and I straight up talked about exams.
I got to be awake for the only one I got and like watch it on the screen.
Yeah, tell us what is your take on this?
They numbed me up. I didn't feel anything, but I got to watch it, which I have diverticulitis, so I have a few gut issues. So there are things in my intestines that shouldn't be there. But what they don't tell you about a colonoscopy is the people doing it are just techs. They're not the doctor. So they're legally not allowed to tell you anything.
Oof, yeah.
So I was like, what's that? And they're like, we can't tell you. And I'm like, is that bad? And they're like, we can't tell you. I'm like, do you have one? And they're like, no. Yeah. And I'm like, well, cool. I'm like, well, what does the doctor call me? They're like, in 3 days. And I'm like, cool. I'll freak out and assume I'm dying for the next 3 days.
They are permitted legally to give weird facial expressions.
Yeah. So they're like, oh. Well, you're like, yeah, because there's 2 of them in there, and they're taking the pictures or whatever. And they're like, did you get that? Like that right there? And I'm like, what is that? They're like, oh, we can't tell you.
Yes,
that's going to be a sad surprise later.
Enjoy your week. Enjoy your anxiety-laden week.
Yeah, hopefully this doesn't make you stressed out nonstop. I'm just like, I go around my friends. They're like, how's your colonoscopy? I'm like, well, I think I'm dying because they didn't tell me yet, but what I seen in there was probably holes in my intestines, and I'm dead now.
Yeah. No, it's we want to not be dead. I hope.
We do want to not be dead.
Yeah. How's you now? You had a health. You were in there for some sort of checkup or something. You're doing okay though, right? You had a clean bill of health, I think. Right, Josh.
Yeah, I had a hemorrhoid surgery, and I had part of my colon removed over Thanksgiving.
Gotcha. Okay.
A lot of gut issues, but I'm all good now. I had a great doctor.
Good deal. Good deal. I've got really bad acid reflux, and in September I had very violent. God, why am I publicly saying this? Now I privately texted people this the other day because my family has COVID, and they're doing well. They're handling it well. They're all vaccinated, but they're handling it. Thankfully, they're vaccinated and they're handling it well. Yeah. But so I was giving them my like background on as I got shit. How the hell did I never get it? I feel like I'm the only one who never got it. And there was this time period in September where I had like these violent, I can't say. I could say, yeah, I had violent shits, like violent shits.
I heard what is the O one, American or whatever. It does give you violent shits, so you might have had COVID.
So I might have had it. But but here, ladies and gentlemen watching at home today, I would like to inform you that the topic of this show is not violent shits. The topic is Mr. Josh Florhaug. So I'm sorry if you've tuned out. I'm sorry,
guys. Now it's gonna get good. Now we're gonna talk about serious stuff.
Yeah, serious soda. So that's what we're gonna talk. Anyway, Josh, for those of you who don't know, Josh, you've been in the business for, I believe, like I said at the top, 11 years.
Yes, 11 years.
Now, according to Malcolm Gladwell and the 10,000 hour rule or 10-year rule, you're pretty freaking good right now.
Yeah, I have known how to do comedy for 1 year, according to Malcolm Gladwell.
Oh yeah, I guess. Yeah,
after the 10 years, then I'm like, all right, now I get it.
Yeah, no, you not so you can you talk? I mean, I know you've talked about this before, but I think it's only fitting because we have a lot of people watching this who aren't familiar with your background. How did you get your start in it, and describe those early open mics when you first started? Because I can throw in my 2 cents too eventually.
I got my start in it. It's like everybody. I liked comedy. I grew up watching comedy. I'm on here. I think you've advertised it. My uncle is a comedian.
Absolutely. The great Louie Anderson.
Yes. Louie C.K. is my uncle. And I don't know why I still am saying that on every podcast. Louie loved it. He thought it was so fucking funny.
Yeah.
Because I do it like, because we lived together in the pandemic. I'd always be like, yes, my uncle Louie C.K. Be like, I hate you. So I wanted to do it. And I signed up for a contest in Minneapolis, great comedy scene.
Right.
My first time on stage, I brought a bunch of friends, which is how you win a comedy contest. Absolutely. And I won that comedy contest.
Nice.
And then it was just a bucket list thing. I wanted to try it once, won it, and then was like, oh, I'm going to keep doing this.
Yeah.
So I kept doing it and kept doing it and started working. Actually, how my uncle found out I did comedy, didn't tell him. We don't have the same last name. So I had only met him like 3 times before I started comedy.
Yeah. The Anderson clan, it's a huge family. It's
like hundreds of people that I don't know. I grew up in Arizona too, so I don't know any of my family. from
Minnesota. Right. So we're jumping all over the place, but I want to get back to that. I want to get back to that for a second. But now that it's on my mind, and people are probably wondering when exactly did you connect with Louie?
This is the coolest story. Lou loves this story. I love telling it. So didn't use his name, never told anybody I was related to him. He didn't even know I did comedy. I had worked in La Crosse, Wisconsin at a winery. I was hosting for a friend. I worked clean. And this booker had a very little budget for an opener because he was booking Louie Anderson in the summer. Right. And he saw a clean new comic who would work for next to nothing. And he was like, how would you like to open for Louie Anderson and get to meet him? And that'll be your pay. And I was like, I would love it.
Yeah.
So, because I'm the only one in on this joke in my head.
Right.
And so I get to the show. Louie finds out who I am. We start chatting. And I'm like, hey, will you watch my set? I'd only been doing comedy for 4 months. And he was like, absolutely not. I'm not going to watch your set. I don't want to. You're new at comedy. I'm mentoring people. I've been doing this for 30 years. Yeah. The only thing I can do with anything now is discourage you. So just keep writing, keep performing, keep having fun. You're not in a position to be mentored yet. You're not in, this is all the baby step stuff.
Right.
And I like to be hard on myself. And I was like, no, watch me. And I made him watch me. And he's like, all right, you can't get mad at me. And he made me shake on that I wouldn't get mad at him. And he sat behind the curtain. I went on, I did like 10 minutes, and he sat backstage with a notebook. and I got off stage. I brought up the middle comic who was the booker, and he threw the notebook at me, and I grabbed it and I started ruffling through, and I'm like, "What'd you write? What'd you write?" He goes, "I didn't write anything." He goes, "Just slow down. You're fucking great."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And then we just started working together. He started bringing me out more. He started trusting me more. I didn't slow down for another 2.5 years.
Right.
He would relentlessly, it's the only advice he ever gave me. Yeah. And I never could get it. And he would relentlessly tease me. Like, I remember getting off stage once in like South Dakota or North Carolina or something. It was one of the like direction and then state. And he just looked at me and goes, "Do you want the crowd to think you're on cocaine?"
Well, okay. So let me tie in a little thing. I clearly I'm not even in the same league as you, but I've done open mics before, and I got to say, I've sucked. And honestly, it's I think I if I were to do it again, that would be the same advice. It's just like slow the F down. It's just like I feel like I was.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just like fat. Like, do you want to? Is it because in your head you wanted to just get all your shit in, or like get all your bits in?
You want to sprint for the laughter, and then you never want it to end, so you just keep going rapid fire because you're like, if I just keep throwing jokes at them, they'll never stop laughing.
Right. You don't want those awkward silences, but your uncle lived in those silences, and he made them funny.
Yeah, I know. He was such the best writer to a furious point. We would be joking around in the car about like nothing. Yeah. And then he'd go out and that'd be 20 minutes.
Holy shit. That's
just like with blast points. Like he had written this 7 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. That's unbelievable.
Yeah. So I got to just watch that for years touring with him, just being like, oh, this is on such a level that it's insane. It's like, I guess it's like pro athletes' kids who get good at sports and stuff. It's like, yeah, they're great because they only learn what the best is, so they only strive for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you had you could pay for any, and I know there's places in Philly that have these because I'm from right outside of Philly. These comedy, improv sketch classes, stand-up classes. You could take as many as you want, but the lessons and the stuff you absorbed from Louie, you're not going to find that in any. You're not going to find.
You're not going to find any of that. And I'd like to give this advice to anybody listening. You're not going to find it in those classes. Those classes will help you learn how to construct a joke. Books can do that too. I've taken no classes. I've read no books. I've listened to some podcasts, but nothing like formal teaching. Just getting out there and doing it, learning what works. And like me and you have talked about bombing a ton. I bomb all the time. Yeah. Not as much anymore, but like you're not going to be good coming out of the gate. I won that contest and then I bombed like the next 4 times I got on stage. And then I got to laugh again after. And I just kept doing it every day.
And did you keep with the same bits? Like in other words, like if you bomb with a certain joke, will you tweak it a little bit the next time? Or did you just keep plugging away at the same?
It depends on how hard-headed I was about the bit. Yeah, so there'd be ones that like I was like, I think this is funny, and then if it didn't work, I was like, throw it out. But if it bombed and I was so into it, I was like, I'm gonna keep tooling this.
Yeah,
which I've done to nauseam with bits that just never went anywhere, and then I've had to throw them out. But I've gotten lucky a couple times where after a couple months, I'm like, oh, this is where you go with it.
Right. Yeah. How long did it take you? So those early few years when you were writing, you get 5 minutes, you get 10 minutes. I mean, God, when I did an open, I got the first time I did an open mic, I got 5 minutes. The second time I got 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So it was, I had to cut down 5 minutes to 3. Did you, how long did it take you to write that initial? I'm curious myself. How long does it take you to write? Should you labor over those first few sets that you do, or should you just kind of just wing it because it's just, you're going to suck anyway and you just need the stage time?
I think the first few sets. Yeah. I mean, you should be writing, but you should be just going for it. Just figure out who you are, figure out what you like talking about up there, figure out what works.
Right.
Because that first, the first year or two is just figuring out who you are on stage. Because
your voice.
Yeah, we're all a different version of ourselves up there. And you got to figure out which one works for you and which one you like being.
Right. Absolutely.
It's the only reason I'm clean. I don't watch a ton of clean comedy. I mean, I like Nate Bargatze, I like Jim Gaffigan, I like all those guys, but I grew up like loving Patton Oswalt and Brian Posehn and Anthony Jeselnik. I grew up just loving dirty comedy. But when I went up there, I have this face that looks like a 12-year-old boy. I can't go up there and talk about like the night before with all the chicks. That's not believable. That's not
gonna buy it.
Yeah, they're like, no, that's not. Don't talk like that. It's offensive. You just shouldn't. You should talk about what you look like.
And that's really well. First of all, getting off track a little bit, but self-deprecating humor is so. It just permeates. People love it. I mean, people love it. They can relate to it. I think anyway, and I think it works for you. I think it's something that you can. If you're able to honestly, I relate that to life. Like if you're able to have a self-deprecating, if you're not on stage or something, if you're able to have a self-deprecating sense of humor in life, I think you can get through life better with that. I mean, if you can't laugh at yourself, like what you're gonna have a tough time. You're gonna have a tough go at.
Yeah, you shouldn't take everything so seriously. It's not no one's killing it. We're all adults now. You said you're 41. I'm 35. Yeah. All I've learned is that no adult knows what's going on, but we're all trying to do our best.
Yeah, they don't know what's going on. Some pretend, some,
we're all just kind of floating and all trying to figure it out. And
pretty much. And
you know what? That's how comedy works. Is you just float around, figure it out, and eventually it'll click.
So Josh, I heard an interesting. I mean, you just gave some awesome advice, and I know you got some good advice from Louie. I heard an interesting story that I think our viewers would be interested in hearing. You did a set. I don't know if you're opening for. I don't know what the hell the show was, but Dane Cook. You did a show.
A show at the Laugh Factory with Dane.
Tell us a little bit about that show, and also tell us a little about what happened after the show.
This is a deep cut story that only my friends know. I love this story because honestly, this is the greatest comedy moment of my life. You guys can see it in my voice and everything. I'm getting so giddy to remember this.
Let me say one thing before you get started. I was and I still am a fan of Dane Cook. I mean, he catches a lot of shit from people for whatever reason, but I've never soured on him, and I've always respected him his work.
Well, this story is gonna make you love him. Because the story's all the goodness.
All right, so, tell the story, Joshua. Go.
So I moved to LA about 3.5 years ago, right before the pandemic, and through working with Louie, he vouched for me at a lot of clubs. I ended up getting passed at the Laugh Factory and getting to do these crazy shows with crazy lineups. This specific night that you're talking about was Dane Cook, David Spade, Nikki Glaser, and Godfrey.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, Godfrey from New York, who I love. Godfrey. Another weird story. I'll throw this story on right away. I worked with Godfrey at the House of Comedy in Minneapolis. There was a snowstorm and the club closed and everybody went home and no one drove him to his hotel. So I drove him and we went grocery shopping because there was nothing open. And so I got to go grocery shopping with Godfrey and he gave me a ton of comedy advice. It was super cool. Also super cool.
There's a theme there, and don't go off course. But now that you said grocery shopping, I believe you went grocery shopping for Louie during the pandemic, didn't you?
Yeah, that was my job during the pandemic.
I would have done it.
It was the only time I got to leave the house. So I went grocery shopping every day.
Those frightening early days. All right, back to the story.
Back to the story. So I get passed at the Laugh Factory. I'm on this show. I told you guys the lineup. Insane. So it goes me for 15 minutes and then Dane Cook after me for 20. Okay. So I go up and I have a murderous night. I just kill. This is one of the best sets I've ever had. Mm-hmm. And I get off stage. I feel I'm on top of the world. I feel like I am hanging with some of the best comics in the world on this show. Yeah. I get off stage and Dane is waiting. If you've ever been to the Laugh Factory in Hollywood, I know it's such a mecca, but it's a small room. The comics stand off to the side of the stage right in the crowd. It's not an amphitheater or anything. So Dane is just right there and he fist bumps me after I get off, which already I see him and in my head, the second I walk off stage, because I'm 35, Dane was the biggest thing when I was in high school. Dane is I contribute a lot of me doing comedy to Friday night half hours, dude. So
I could pull out 2 of his DVDs that are sitting in my basement.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah, I could. Yeah. So like, that's what made me want to do comedy, was those late 90s Friday night half hours. My mom would order pizza. We'd watch those. So like Dane Cook, Nick Schwartz, and again, Patton Oswalt, all these guys. Right. So I get off and I'm just looking at my hero in the eye after killing, knowing that he had to have at least been there for 5 of the minutes.
Right.
And I'm just like, play it cool, and maybe he'll tell you had a good set. And he fist bumps me and he goes, dude, you fucking killed. He goes, I'll see you upstairs. Because there's like this little green room area. And I'm like, whoa. Okay. So I'm just up there watching Dane, just like in my head, like, be cool. Dane's going to come up and you're going to get to talk to him. And I get up and lose it right away the second he's done. I go, Dane, you mean so much to me. And he goes, dude, calm down. He goes, we're just 2 comics on the show. I just started before you. He just shut me down right away and just put me on the level where he was like, dude, you don't need to suck up to me at all. We both had a great set. We're both on the show and we both deserve to be here. And it was
a respectable thing for him to say.
It was the most, like, he disarmed me right away. So there was no weird, awkward, I'm hanging out with my hero.
Yeah.
And we just sat and talked about comedy for 2.5 hours. And then Godfrey ended up coming up and was hanging out. Godfrey came up and he remembered me and he's like, dude, you made it to LA. And I was like, thanks. And so I'm just hanging out with legendary comics. We're talking and Dane just pulls me aside and he goes, hey man, hit me up whenever. He goes, I know that I have the, there's a lot of things that people say about me that I'm not formal or anything. He goes, I love talking about comedy with newer comics. I love helping. I love doing all that. And I've messaged him a couple times. He's always gotten back to me same day. And this is me messaging him on Instagram. I don't have his phone number.
Yeah. And you can imagine the amount of DMs he's probably getting. Yeah.
and anytime I've been at the Laugh Factory and he's there, even if we're on different shows and he sees me, he says hi. He's introduced me to his girlfriend. He's like, oh, this is Josh. He's a funny comic. And it's just one of the coolest things in the world that he's just such a great down-to-earth guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
A guy who sold out Madison Square Garden was just like, let's talk about comedy with this kid who's not even unpacked yet in a studio apartment in Burbank.
Well, I mean, you could count the number of comics on one hand, I think, that are arena comics. It's like Dane, Dice, Chris Rock, Chappelle, Louie C.K. That's about it. I mean, not too many of them. But that is awesome. And did you? I mean, not to go into detail because we'd be here all day, but the talk that he had with you really resonated, and I'm sure you absorbed a lot of the information, a lot of the stuff that he told you, right?
Yeah, he was just so about being genuine on stage and being again, like another things that Louie taught me a lot is like being a good person, being genuine, because Dane did have those times where he wasn't, and he said he kind of regretted those and didn't like how people felt about him, and just such a nice guy. And just he said he just gave me the never stop working, never stop writing.
Yeah.
Because he got to be on top of the world. So just that stay hungry mentality.
That's nice. He is giving back, and he seemed genuine about it. That's awesome, man.
Oh, dude, just so great, and such a treat to get to have that with somebody that I idolized.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So one thing I'm curious, because at this point you're getting definitely some experience under your belt. You've got, like I said, over decades of experience. But how do you? And I always ask people this because I kind of know how I would handle it. But how do you deal with people? I'll just say it. How do you deal with hecklers? How do you deal with people that want to? Basically, 9 times out of 10, they're drunk, being an asshole. Do you have any weird, hellish heckler stories that you want to share with us?
I have one that comes to mind right away. It's one of my favorite stories.
Shall share it with us.
how I deal with hecklers is because I play such a timid character up on stage is I will be like, seriously, we're gonna bully me again, or like make it that just to make them feel like a bad bully, and usually shuts them down.
Kind of flip it on them. Yeah.
So because I have such a timid character, I don't go at him aggressively. I go at him at the other angle. Like, you're messing this, like almost like a shamed parent. Yeah, I'm like, really? This is what we're gonna ruin everybody's show because you're gonna yell out. This is
smart way to do it. Yeah, right.
This is how you feel that you should be wasting all of our time. And then I usually just make them feel bad. My best heckler story, it was in Denison, Iowa. I will never forget this.
Denison, Iowa. All right,
Denison, Iowa. I'm performing at a bar with one of my best friends, one of the first guys to ever take me out of the road, a guy named Tommy Thompson. Okay. Super funny headliner. I was opening for him. So I go up, and it's like a bar show in Iowa. It's not going great.
Right.
I'm not making a ton of money on this deal. I think I'm making like $100, and it cost me $50 to get there and get home. Right. So I'm on stage, and it's just not going super well. And about 15 minutes into my half-hour set, this guy comes in, big 10-gallon hat, rancher shirt, and he goes, "Drinks on me!" And the whole crowd just starts ordering drinks. Like, just could care less. I'm on stage at this point, and I'm like, I hate this guy, and he just starts yelling at me.
Who's he? Z-Bass from Dumb and Dumber or something?
Yes, his name was JR, which perfect. And I just look at the waitress. I go, I'm gonna need at least 5 Jack and Cokes to get through this, or I'm going to kill myself up here. And JR goes, "You heard him. Get him 5 Jack and Cokes." And the lady brought me 5 Jack and Cokes, and he just kept yelling during my set. And this is the only time maybe in the history of chasing this beautiful dream that is stand-up comedy, where in my head I looked at my timer and I'm like, I'm just going to talk
the fuck out of here
for 15 minutes. I have 15 more minutes contractually, and I'm going to treat this like a job I don't want to be at. I'm just going to tell these jokes, and if people laugh, they do. If they don't, I kind of had to tell myself in my head, I'm like, hey, you're living your dream, but you're still at work. Sometimes work isn't a fun day.
All right.
You have a job where 98% of the time it's the best moments of that day. Mm-hmm. And this is the 2% where it sucks. And I get off stage, and JR just hands me a wad of money, and he goes, "You were great, kid." And like, I just couldn't be mad at him. He quadrupled my pay.
Yeah, what you were getting for the night.
Yeah, and then the headliner went up, and he just shut him down because I so new. I didn't know how to do this super well, but he got up and he brought JR up on stage, and he goes, "JR, I want you to tell me what you hate." And JR, believe it or not, you guys, wrote for the Denison Gazette. He had just an opinions column.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what he got his bravado from.
These are the 3 things he was mad at, and you guys can piece together how he came up with this list. He was mad at Tiger Woods. Okay. Oprah.
All right.
Obama.
Not too unexpected.
And then he wanted to know who Madelia Nelson was, which is the name he used.
What the fuck?
And why should we be sad that he died? What was he, the president of Africa? And the headliner just looked at me and goes, "Did you mean Nelson Mandela?" And he goes, "Yeah, he was the president of Africa."
I need to find this guy. I want to get him on my
He's the greatest guy. He will tell you all about it. I'm sure he has a lot of opinions.
What his job is. What is he, an oil entrepreneur or something?
I assume the biggest drug lord of Denison, Iowa.
Drug lord or like that?
Yeah, an oil baron. Something
oil baron. Money
doesn't mean anything, and it seems like he can do whatever he wants in this town.
I feel like that wasn't the first time he's done that to a young comic. I feel like that's his shtick. I feel like he's sauntered into many funny bones and with his hat.
I feel like he's done that to bands probably, where it's like, "I'm singing now. We're just gonna start playing songs I wrote.
It's Free Bird.
Yeah, we're just gonna play Free Bird. I don't know all the words, but I'm just gonna yell."
I love people like that. I hate them. I hate them that sometimes they ruin the time, but I love them because they're so damn weird.
Yeah, so, I'm like, what is this guy? I want to know what he does. I want to know what his day-to-day looks like.
Yeah.
Is it just like him just not caring about anything? Because that sounds
and also like, did he plan in his head that he knew what he was doing? And he's like, I got my cash I'm going to give to this kid. Or there a moment of empathy and he was like, oh shit, I ruined this kid.
I assume he was like, I ruined this show or whatever it is.
It's like pull it out of it.
Yeah, because I think he's probably so like this where he doesn't like factor in that he ruined everybody around him's night at the comedy show. He was just at that bar and he's like, this kid seems sad. I'll give him a handful of money because money means nothing to me. And
God, yeah, no, that would. I don't think too many people can top that. In terms of a heckler story.
That was the most fun one, and then we went to a weird strip club in a basement.
Oh yeah, the
basement strip club in a small town.
I have heard of basement rock shows. I've never been to a basement strip club before.
Oh, this was as gross as you could imagine. I had a blast. Again, kept getting drinks bought from me from people who were at the show who were apologizing for JR.
Yeah. A lot of cesarean section scars and
a lot of girls who are currently pregnant. Some of them apologized to me. They're like, "Oh, you met JR? He ruined the show, didn't he?" And I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "I'm sorry." And I'm like, "So the whole town's just letting this guy do whatever he wants?" That's why I assume he's a drug lord.
Maybe the mayor. He's the mayor. Possibly.
Yeah, I assume he's mayor by now. This was 5-6 years ago.
Did you ever run into God, I think it's, let's see, past the 19. Holy crap, I'm old. 2019. What year is it now? 2022, 2021. It's been a couple years. Did you ever run into Brody Stevens in the scene out there at all, or not really?
When I came out, I purposely was at the Comedy Store late so I could watch Brody Stevens once.
Oh, awesome! Yeah.
I'm a big Brody Stevens fan.
I love Brody.
Any comic. So I've never got to meet him, but I did get to see him live once. I did get to see him close down the original room. I got to see him, play fake drums. I got to see him yell and be positive.
You got it.
Positive energy.
Positive push. That guy was one of them. There's never going to be another Brody Stevens. I can tell you that much.
One of the from everything I heard, one of the most genuinely nice dudes in the whole world.
Yeah, and you could tell. And towards the end, I was following. He would do these live streams on Twitch, and
really with Brody Stevens and his friends with Eric Olegi.
Yeah.
Eric's a good friend of mine. Eric was going to have me come on the Brody Stevens show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
But he passed away before that happened, which I was, when he asked me, again, just like meeting Dane, Eric's my friend. He's like, "Oh, do you want to come on my Brody show and talk?" And I was like, "Yeah, no problem." And then I went home to my girlfriend. I'm like, I'm going to go get to meet Brody Stevens.
No, he was one of a kind, man. I miss that guy. I miss that guy a lot. So we just talked about a entertaining but shitty experience. Give me your 180. What was your peak on stage performance over the past 11 years? It couldn't have been early. I mean, you got to suck those first few years. What was the most, in terms of a peak is the wrong word.
Yeah.
Most that moment where you're kind of like
I'll give you the top three.
Because
they're kind of quick stories. The first one is the Dane show, the show with Dane.
Right.
Second one, I will be on season 3 of Laugh After Dark, which should be coming out eventually. Murphy Media Productions just purchased it. So
cool.
I know Amazon Prime, you can watch the first 1 and 2 seasons. Season 3 is live from Las Vegas, and they're shopping that around. So I believe it'll be on Prime, but I think they're trying to find a release date.
Nice.
That audition, I had one of those sets where like nothing wasn't working.
Yeah.
And I got to book my first TV stand-up spot. So that was amazing. And then the third one, I'm being super sentimental because Louie just passed. So another Louie story. I work with Louie. I worked with him every year on New Year's Eve in Minnesota. He'd be at a big homecoming show. He'd do this theater, 1,500 seats. He'd sell it out twice in that night. And he'd always give me like 10 minutes when I first started out. So like the first 2 years, so year 3 and 4 of me doing stand-up. Right. He would give me 10 minutes. It would go okay. I mean, good enough, but not great. And then year 5, I got on the road and I started touring and I got really good at stand-up. I learned so much. I learned how to write. I became myself. I found my voice, all that stuff. And I worked with him and he saw the work I was putting in. And he goes, "You go out and do 15. Nice. And I go, all right, super squeaky clean. And he goes, "No, go out and do what you do." because I'm not super dirty. So it's not like he was expecting to get Doug Stanhope out there. Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, this is who I am now. He's like, you can say, the couple swear words you say, just go out and do it.
Right.
And I go out and I get 5 applause breaks in 15 minutes.
Wow.
And I am just crushing. It's the best I've ever felt on stage. And I'm doing it in front of Louie, who I usually don't do super great in front of because the crowd's older and they don't like me that much.
Right.
Or at least up until that point, it was a thing.
Yeah.
And just in my head, I'm like, this is going to be the first time he tells me he's proud of me. And
you kind of had that feeling.
Yeah. I was like, this is it. And I bring him out and I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, Louie Anderson. And he's getting a standing ovation and I hug him and he just whispers in my ear. He goes, you slowed down. See what happens when you fucking listen to me? Hey, crowd, how you doing? And just walked out. And I'm like, you're not even going to say anything good. I go back. And this is the worst part. I go back. My girlfriend's backstage. She's in my dressing room. And I'm like, hey. And she's like, you did awesome. And I go, did you watch it with Louie? And she goes, yeah. I go, what did he say? Because I'm like, this is where the compliment came. And he goes, the whole time he watched, he was just grinning ear to ear. And he just kept saying, he's listening to me. He's listening to me. And I'm like, oh, he's not only going to take credit for his amazing hour-and-a-half set, he's stealing my 15 minutes too.
Well, man, that yeah. I mean, well, in no uncertain terms, I mean, he's spoken so highly of you on podcasts. I was listening, I don't know, Bennington or somebody.
Yeah.
Out of the blue, he's like put you over and plugged you, and that's enough. That's enough to know that he endorsed you and was so proud of you, man.
He did. Yeah, he definitely let me know unfortunately in those last days, he let me know that he believed in me and it's one of the reasons why I'm working so hard now. It's like, oh, now I gotta do it.
Oh, bro, you're already
you're
past the point of no return now.
Yeah, I know. I have no other skills. I'm 35. Like, I can't get a job now. They're like, what'd you do? I'm like, I kind of just hung out with people for the last 10 years. And they're like, we're not going to hire you.
Well, like, tell us a little bit more about that those early days of the pandemic when you were with Louie. And, a lot of people know my channel when I dropped that tribute video to Louie.
Beautiful tribute video. Beautiful tribute video.
It's
thanks, yeah.
That was the morning he passed. I made that. I went out to one of my favorite spots, and I just felt like I needed to. And that was the first time I showed my audience, my YouTube channel, the cameo that Louie did for me and my family bought for me. And you might not know this, but the man you're looking at right now is the man who taught Louie Anderson how to do cameos, I believe.
I did teach Louie how to do cameo. I also taught Louie how to post Instagram stories. That was what we did the first couple weeks of the pandemic. I taught Louie how to use social media, which I didn't want to do. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Louie is a lovely man. He's a better human than you could ever even imagine. I know people always want to know if he's as good as a guy as they think. And I'll tell you, no, he's not as good as a guy as you think. He's so much better. He, like, all the sweetheart kindness you think he has, he's like 2 levels above that somehow. He has a crazy memory. He's an insanely nice guy. Completely doesn't understand social media at all. He spends all his time loving people and being nice and has retained no information about how an iPhone works, even though he's always had an iPhone since they came out. It's like he got it last week. It's so adorable. He'll remember a fan from 20 years ago in South Carolina. And then he's like, how do texts work again? And I'm like, what? So in the early days of the pandemic, we had fun. So the way I got hooked up with Louie during the pandemic is best friends at this point. We're working together all the time. He's in LA where I live shooting TV, and he was staying at the hotel because I serve breakfast part-time at the Beverly Hills Hotel.
Okay. Yeah.
Because when I moved out to LA, I was like, I'm going to need a little more money and I'm going to have a day job.
Right. Absolutely.
So I was serving breakfast there. Louie staying there. The Friday before everything shut down, I'm supposed to tape my Laugh After Dark set that Thursday.
Okay. Oh, wow.
And he goes, hey, COVID's pretty bad, which And he's like, you know, I'm older. I have breathing problems. I'm in the high risk. I can't fly home.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're off for the week for your taping. He goes, how about you drive me home? I'll pay for your gas. I'll give you some money. I'll make sure you get a guest set at every comedy club on the Vegas Strip for the next 4 days. You set me up with groceries. I think there's going to be like a 1 or 2 weeks where I'm not going to travel because of COVID. And then you head out Wednesday, go shoot your taping. I'll buy you your outfit for your taping. Like, we had this really nice deal laid out.
Perfect.
Because he wanted that, because he had to wear hand-me-down clothes for when he did Carson. So he was so into the idea where he was like, I'm not letting you wear anything that you own. He's like, you're not wearing anything you own. You're going to go out and you're going to get yourself a whole new outfit and you're going to feel great. And I'm going to help you with that.
Awesome.
Just a really cool, like in-depth comic thing where he's like, you got to feel good for your TV taping. He's like,
absolutely.
I didn't love that I wore a used suit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or rented or used.
Yeah. And he's like, I want you to have what I didn't have, which is why he's such a father figure to me, because he was like really making sure that my life was better than his life in this weird entertainment world.
Yeah.
So I drive him home, and then everything shuts down that Monday and my taping gets canceled. And he's like, hey man, COVID's bad. So what was supposed to be a 4-day stay with him, I stayed with him for 6 months.
Wow.
And my girlfriend brought clothes out and stuff, so I wasn't wearing the same 4 outfits. But she came out every couple of weeks and would have dinner with us. And like we kind of talked about before, I go grocery shopping every day. We'd make a meal plan. Louie was working out in the pool. Anybody who follows Louie on social media saw that he worked out every day in that pool. We both led. We got into shows. We got really into Tiger King. Louie tried to buy a tiger for a while.
He's binging Netflix binging with him.
We Netflix binge so much. We watched Tiger King, and like, I think we started in the morning, and around 5 p.m. like, there's that crazy guy from Vegas. He goes, I bet if I called that guy, he'd bring us a tiger. And I'm like, are we gonna get a tiger? We were so bored in the house. We were like, yeah, let's get a tiger.
Josh, why don't you get us a tiger? Go ahead.
Josh, he goes, I think that guy would bring us a tiger. He looks like a Louie fan. And I'm like, you want me to go? Like, because Louie owned like just all of his merch. And I'm like, you want me to go put together a care package? He goes, if we can get a tiger here, he goes, we'll give him whatever he wants in this house. He's like, we're not giving him books and signed posters. He goes, he wants a lamp in the living room, he can have it.
Well, oh my God.
Yeah, we watched Ozarks, we watched Hunters. What else do we watch? We watched a lot of like Shark Tank. Just a lot of boring TV. We watched a lot of like old sports. Louis was a giant sports fan, so we watched.
Absolutely, it's a funny story.
Last Dance and all that.
Funny story with him. I had other than of course the cameo, but I spoke with Louis a few times over the years, and this is par for the course for my weirdness. The only thing we've talked about, and I don't think recent days he watched, but back in the day, he was a pro wrestling fan. You might not have known that.
Yes. I did.
Yeah. Okay.
The old AWA stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. We talked about Dusty Rhodes. We talked about Haystacks Calhoun. He said he loved it back in the day, and I thought that was so cool. I don't know what the hell I guess when I tweeted him, this was before Baskets, and he blew up. So I was like, oh, what can I ask Louie? I don't know how I brought, but I asked him, and we went back and forth for a little bit. That was my interaction with Louie. We talked about pro wrestling. So
he got back into it in the later days.
Oh, really?
I think right before the pandemic, like he was watching it when I went up to his room once. He's like, I'm watching wrestling now. I'm getting back into it.
That's awesome.
And I was like, are you? He goes, I don't know who a lot of these people are. He goes, but I like them. He's like, it's fun. Like, that old guy responds to me. He's like, I don't quite know who people are, but I'm learning.
Yeah, no, I think you definitely watched it back growing up, as many of us did. But so this is before the pandemic, but how much? I already know the answer to this question, but like, how much did he love? He loved doing that, playing Christine Basket. It seems like it just
so much. I mean, that was his favorite thing, and this was the new Louie. This is who Louie was, because the second coming of Louie, because Louie didn't act for like 10 years in between that.
Right.
And I mean, he's talked about it in a ton of interviews. He had a lot of anxiety about acting. He never felt like he was good enough. And when he got Baskets, I remember me and him sat down, and this was such a cool moment I got to have with him, because it wasn't talking to a comedy genius for once in Louie's career and life. I was talking to a guy who was kind of not good at something in entertainment, but he had such an attitude for Baskets that was really remarkable. And that's what he told me. He goes, I don't care if it takes 10 hours to get a scene. I don't care if I have to do it a million times. I don't care if I have to run up and down stairs with my bad knees. I don't care what I have to do. And he's like, I'm going to do this so good. And I'm going to do this to the best of my abilities. And he goes, and this is when I'm finally going to learn how to act and be a fantastic actor. And
he nailed it.
He did nothing but that. He just crushed it from day one. And like I said, I remember talking to him when he got it, and they shot the pilot, and he's like, I tried so hard. I did my absolute best. I hired an acting coach to get me all ready.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, he hired that lady who does everybody. Like, you'll hear any podcast. I don't know her name. I feel so bad.
Yeah.
But Louie doesn't understand how things work. So like when I do commercial auditions, because I only have a commercial agent, he's like, you should hire my lady. And I'm like, no. I don't. I'm not gonna pay a lady $1,000 an hour, who's the biggest audition helper in Hollywood, to help me out with an AT&T commercial where I only have one line.
Yeah, I'm not at that stage yet. Louie.
Yeah, I'm like, no, it's not. I'm not doing the next Spielberg movie, Louie. And he's like, she's the best though, if you ever need it. And I'm like, yeah, I've heard on every podcast ever, everybody hires her. He's like, oh, she's as worth it as they say.
I used her for my 7-Eleven commercial.
He did. He was the first representative of 7-Eleven.
Yeah, I remember that story.
Yeah, he did that on what, Sway in the Morning?
Yeah. And the night before he was gambling.
Yeah, he lost like $185,000.
Yeah.
He always had stories like that. He'd be like, oh yeah, we watched an old Tyson fight and he's sitting ringside.
Really? One of those old 80s, like
the old 80s at the Caesars Outdoor Palace.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you watch it and you can see him because he's a big fat man in a white button-up shirt. And he's like, whoa, we're watching. And he goes, huh, look at that. And I go, what? He goes, I was at this fight. And I'm like, did you not remember? He goes, I've been watching 4 rounds, Josh. Not at all. That's me. Look at my face. I was there. And I was like, you don't remember going to that? He goes, dude, I love Tyson. He goes, I went to every Tyson fight I could.
Wow. Yeah.
He's like, so yeah, I thought I could have been here, but yeah, I was at this.
Yeah, I mean, those were those were big fights back in the day. Tyson and they were nuts. Yeah. But so one thing I wanted to ask you, like, you came into Louie, later on in life, but like you're about 5 years younger than me. So do you remember the first run of when Louie had his animated series, like the Life with Louie thing?
I watched it as a kid. Yeah.
Oh, you did? Okay.
And that was so cool.
Did you grasp at the time that like this was you had no idea?
No, because I was just the person who had an uncle who that was his cartoon. I didn't like it wasn't.
I always picture like my I talked to my brother and he was like, one of the things I was like, I got Josh on the show tonight. What is there something that you wanted to, and he kind of reiterated like, what is that, to have like an uncle that is that at that young age, like what's going through your head as
because I would have only been like 9.
Yeah, right. I was like,
it wasn't surreal because I couldn't grasp it. It was just like, oh, this is just a thing.
Yeah.
Like, and then you'd always wonder if like
one of the things he does. Yeah.
Yeah. That's because he's my great uncle. He's my grandma's brother.
Right.
Yeah. So his older sister is in the cartoon is my grandma.
Gotcha.
That's how they line up out of the 11 brothers and sisters. It goes my grandma Lisa, and then Louie, and then Tommy.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's the bottom 3.
Yeah.
So I always thought that was the cooler part, is that sometimes his older sister would be there, and I'd be like, "That's my grandma."
That is awesome, man. That's I go back with Louie, man. I said to people, I mean, it's like, and it's strange because I don't know if strange is the right word, but it's like you, I grew up with a lot of filthy comics and a lot of kind of push the envelope, although there were some that I didn't, like I was a big fan of Dana Carvey and stuff like that, but Louie is just, and I even know at a young age, is just so he was so genius in terms of his delivery, and it was something that I could, and I said this in my video, but it was something that like my entire family could relate to, and it was a set that where you could watch it with your family, and it wasn't cheesy, it was funny as shit, and it was always something that I could just tell you, me and my family just laughed my ass off, and we saw him in Atlantic City. And on a sad note, Josh, I just literally, my dad texted my family, and my brother Justin texted me today. they screen cap this thing, and it's so I live in South Jersey, right outside of Philly, and there's a theater here called the Louie Theater, and I guess they don't update their print or anything, but it's it had May, God, I think it was May, middle of May or something, and Louie's face. So I guess he was still, I don't know who
he was still booking. He
was still booking for May, even when he was had his condition. So
you know what? Yeah, you know what? I'll tell you this story because this is funny. I haven't told it on a radio show. I feel comfortable with you though. So
thanks, I appreciate it.
January 29th, we were supposed to perform in Surprise, Arizona. I went to high school in Surprise, Arizona. I was a cheerleader and a mascot. I was picked on a ton in high school, and I was supposed to open for Louie at the big theater the week. It was supposed to be the week after he passed.
Yeah.
And when I went in once to see him, it's the first thing I yelled after his agent like officially canceled the date. He's like, "We canceled the date." And I was like, "Oh, didn't want me to have my moment of fame in my hometown. You went and got cancer." And he was like, "This is the whole reason I have cancer. So I could take this away from you."
Yeah.
Damn it. Just never stopped making jokes and making bits, no matter how bad it got. If he was like, "Yeah, that was my whole plan, Josh." And I was like, "I love you so much. You're so funny."
It's the plan all along.
Yeah. There was not a lot of sad moments, a lot of jokes. Probably made the hospital staff irate that we were just in there laughing and joking, and they're like, that's unhealthy.
I guess it had to be the past. I mean, like if he was still booking, I mean, of course it took it. I feel bad even bringing it up, but it had to be the past few months it's just.
And I mean, he kept it quiet because he's Louie Anderson. I mean, I'm not going to go into super detail, but he's exactly who you think he is. And I mean, I think this was publicly said is he didn't want anybody to worry. And that was his motto the whole time is he was like, "Oh, I don't want to stress. I don't need anybody to stress out about it." And, he's Louie, he's confident. And he was like, "I'm going to, I trust these doctors, try to get better. And when I do, I'll talk about it then."
Yeah.
He's like, "This will be a nice half hour," is what he'd always say.
It's like, and not to like, it's so weird because I don't know if you were a fan of him.
Of Louie, no. Never watched any of his stand-up.
You have no idea who the hell he is.
Yeah. I was like, I'd get off stage and he'd be like, "I'm going on. Are you going to watch?" And I'd be like, "Sounds like old guy stuff. Not interested." And then I go sit in my dressing room, my headphones, I'd put Beats on. And they go stage and I go, "How'd it go?" And you go, "You want to watch anything?"
Go eat some chicken tenders. Yeah. So I was saying, I don't know if you were a fan of him, but Norm Macdonald, he passed in
giant fan of Norm.
He passed when was it? December, Christmas, January? I don't know when it was, but it was last year. I think it was it was last year, Norm. And similar situation. He lived, but Norm lived with it for I think 10 years. I think 10 years. I saw him in 2019 in Atlantic City or Philly. Where was it? Philly, I think. And same way, I think Norm and Louie had the same mindset where it's like, why make a thing out of this? It's just like, why do it? If it's going to depress people and I don't want to make a thing. And I think they're kind of the similar mindset.
They're comics and they're older guys from that generation.
Yeah. They're around
like,
the same age.
You can't let your feelings show. You don't need it. You just got to fight and then figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I know. Big Norm fan. Me doing stand up, his special that came out in I think 2012 was the one where I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm going to try this. Like I always wanted to do stand up, and then after watching like that and a few other specials, I was like, all right, let's go do it.
Norm is just genius, and he's
smart.
Anybody who doesn't, hasn't seen Norm Macdonald, just YouTube is, God bless YouTube. It's just there's so much Norm stuff and Louie stuff on there. Just go back and binge it. Spend a weekend just watching their stuff and interviews. It's just you don't even need to pay for cable. Just watch YouTube for hours and hours and hours. But yeah, man. So you're getting back into it. I know you had a few rough months, clearly for obvious reasons. But
I had my surgery, and then I had Louie stuff, and then I went through a breakup right before that.
Yeah, I know that feeling for sure.
Yeah, I had a whole 6 months, and now I'm back. I'm back to doing it. I'm writing. I think I'm doing what Louie would have wanted as far as honoring him and not being sad about it.
Yeah,
and it's just. We kind of talked about earlier. This is what I do. This is my lifeblood. So I think it's the thing that makes me the happiest.
Absolutely. And you've got 100%, into it. And that's really what it's all about. You got now you booked, I think I saw an Instagram post. You booked like some shows already and coming up right next month or this month or something. Do you want to plug?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm in Santa. I'll turn around, look at my calendar.
Yeah.
I'm in Redlands, California, February 17th, Santa Monica the 25th, Lancaster the 26th. I'm in Long Beach, March 16th, March 18th and 19th. I'm up north, I think, in the Inland Empire. I'm in Las Vegas, April 11th through 17th at the Laugh Factory out there.
Nice.
Which is always one of my favorite weeks, to get to spend a week at the Laugh Factory with the guy who franchises it, one of Louie's best friends, Harry Basil.
Absolutely. Have you ever taken a road trip and worked any clubs East Coast yet, or not yet?
I haven't been much. I've done East Coast stuff with Louie, like theaters and stuff.
Oh, right.
I haven't been on my own accord, and I'm gonna start doing that. Laugh After Dark will come out, and I'm sure that'll open up a bunch of bookings for me. And I definitely want to get out there and see all you guys.
For sure, man. Whenever you come out East Coast, I'll definitely come out and support you.
I have friends in Philly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it popped up. Unfortunately, the day Louie passed, the picture popped up, which you seen, because I think I posted it that day, of me, Louie, and then Philly's own Chris Rabb from Jackass.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You did an interview with him, I think, right?
Yes. Chris
Rabb himself.
Rabb himself is a good friend of mine, and he's out there too. So I definitely want to make it out there and do comedy.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few good clubs. You got Helium. Punchline's a great club. It's a pretty good scene.
Yeah,
so.
I'd say Jersey people. I know, like Joe Pelizzotti, who's one of Louie's openers, who's out in the East Coast. I have a ton of friends out there. I want to get out there and see.
Well, I think that's just, now it's on my mind. I realize with Louie is he would always, and he loved the casinos, and his demographic was that casino crowd. He loved it.
Loved gambling, loved old people.
So Atlantic City is really close to me, and so is Philly. So I think when Louie was booking, when he was married, if he had the choice between the two, 9 times, and that's where I saw him, 9 times out of 10, he would book Atlantic City instead of.
Of course he would. He would.
Yeah. So he can play the blackjack table. So I never really, really played Philly too much.
Blackjack over cheesesteaks, pending on the day. I lived at Louie for 6 months. I know it was pending on that. There were some days where it was cheesesteaks, but
right, absolutely, man. So
he'd always pitch those to me during the pandemic. Like we and anybody who followed him during the pandemic, he was on this big health food kick and stuff. But some days he'd be like, I'd come upstairs in the morning and he'd be like, "We're cheating today." He bought an air fryer, which I actually just got. We cremated Louie. We were cleaning out his house, and his business manager was just like packing up a lot of the stuff, and he was like, "Is this his air fryer that we all told you that Louie couldn't have?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Did you buy it?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "You can have it." So I have Louie's air fryer in my trunk. If anybody wants to buy it from me.
And Josh, by the way,
Louie Anderson's air fryer.
There would be people who buy. There would be people.
I know.
People buy anything. Just to spawn off of what you just said.
On watch. Because Louie's very bad at dishes.
My opinion. I feel if there is Twitter in heaven, I hope there is. I feel that Louie would have laughed at that tweet that you said about him.
My controversial tweet that made so many people in my family mad. It made so many of my family mad.
Did they were upset?
My mom called me like 10 minutes after I wrote it, and she goes, "Don't engage with anybody you're related to, please."
Oh no!
I was like, "Why?" Like, I had an uncle who wrote, I'm not a seasoned comedian or anything, but I can't see any way how this is even at all humorous. And I was gonna write, it's funny because he's fat.
Well, Louie, like I said, first of all, my
talked about it.
My cousin Matt read that, and I sent it to him. I was like, look what Louie's nephew just said. He was like, "Oh man, that is a healthy sense of humor." My cousin said, but I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm putting myself in Louie's shoes up there, and I'm reading. He was like, "He's right. I'd be delicious."
He had that joke about if they cooked him in the old fryer grease at McDonald's. He didn't about it. Yeah. But
I mean, you know him better than anybody.
I do.
Of course he would have laughed.
Yeah.
He knew you loved him.
I thought it was so funny. I laughed for like 10 minutes in my car while I was driving when I wrote that, and I was like, this is my tribute.
Yeah. But anyway, Josh, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
Thanks for having me on.
I really appreciate it. And before we get out of here, give me your because there's a lot of people who I'm sure want to discover you. I got a cousin who moved out west in the Bay, and I got some people. I got other friends out west. So where can they find you on social media and on the internet?
You can find me. This is something I learned not from Louie, because there's no how social media works, but you can find me at Josh F Comedy on all social media, on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook, Josh F Comedy on everything, joshfcomedy.com for dates and details and all of that.
And I've got some thank you guys, and I'll put all all that stuff he just said in the description, so you can click the links and all that stuff. But I've got some bad news for you, Josh.
What?
I got some really bad news for you. Now I realize you're 35. Okay.
I am.
Okay. I turned 41 in March. Now I'll break this news to everyone. I used to do moonsaults into pools. I used to do backflips into pools. And I have to be honest with you. Once I got, well, actually it was before 40, probably like 39-ish. I can't do the backflips into the pools anymore. So your days of the backflips into the pools are numbered, Josh. That's what I'm saying. So you better get your
guys. I love backflipping into pools, and this is what we haven't told you. It's my thing. Louie would just sit on his balcony and yell at me, and he'd just be like, Josh, just like Christine, and go, for fuck's sake. He'd always go, for fuck's sake, seriously? He's like, you're gonna get hurt, and I can't get out there.
My family hated when I used to do that shit.
I know. So. He would just yell at me, and I'd be like, all the time. He just, because I'd post it on Instagram, and he'd be like in bed, and he'd just come out there, and he'd be like, fucking really? Doing backflips into my pool? You're gonna get hurt.
Goddamn serious, Josh. Will you stop it?
Oh, that's too close of it. That's too close of an impression. It makes me uncomfortable because it just makes me want to go do backflips in a pool and not listen to him and write, hey, fuck yourself.
Anyway, my point is get all your backflips in, because in 5 years, it gets tough.
Dude, I was a cheerleader. I'm backflipping forever. You guys heard it here first. The next 10 years, find me on Instagram. I'll still be backflipping.
Yeah, man. Keep doing it, brother. But anyway,
I'm only in comedy, so I can get into pool backflipping professionally.
You do a backflip on stage and land. I guess technically
can't. I'm not Chappelle Lacey. Do you know who Chappelle Lacey is? He's a comedian. He's on Fighter and the Kid podcast. He can do backflips standing straight up, and he's a big black man, and he's like bulky. Wow. He's bulky and huge. We both cheered in Arizona together. We're really good friends, but he can backflip standing up, and I can only backflip into a pool.
What if you started? We got to get out of here, man. We're making it tight. What time is it right now? Yeah, we got to get out of here. We're past the hour. But like, what? This is my last thought. What if you started your next set? Everybody's going to think, oh, Josh is depressed and blah, blah, blah. And instead you just did the opposite and just started the set with a fucking backflip.
I'm going to learn how to do it, and then I'll do it.
If you do that, I'll be your biggest backflip supporter.
I'm going to learn how to do it and then do it in the East Coast, guys. You heard it first. I'm not going to do that, but you guys can all come to my hotel and I'll do it into the pool.
Ladies and gentlemen at home, thank you all for tuning in.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. And most importantly, thank you, Josh, for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Appreciate you, brother. And you have my support and continued support, continued success in comedy. I like to use this phrase, onward and upward. There's only one more place. There's only one direction for you, brother. It's up. So
thank you. Thank you, guys.
Stay positive. Thanks, man. And thanks for everybody else at home. And I want to say cheers. Have a great, what day is it? I don't even know. Wednesday. There's something. Whatever. Yeah, we got to get out of here. I don't want to do a grandiose goodbye. We just wave.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye. Cheers. Cheers, guys.
Bye. Cheers.
Bye. Have a good time. Have a good night's sleep. And we are done.